Well, hey there, everybody. How you doing? Dave Fennoy here, and welcome to another exciting episode of Ask Dave Fennoy Anything. Wait a minute, that was a character I was playing later on or earlier today, and it just came back out again. Anyway, hope everybody's doing okay on this Wednesday. This is that thing that we do, 6 p.m. Pacific, Facebook Live, Ask Dave Fennoy Anything. These live on my YouTube channel, Dave Fennoy Voiceover Training. So this or any of the others that we have done over it's getting up to a couple of years now. You can visit my YouTube channel. As a matter of fact, when you visit, why not subscribe, And if you're interested in private voiceover lessons with me, you can stop by davefennoy.com, click on the Study VO tab at the top, and sign yourself up. You'll get notifications about these Wednesdays and when I'm going to be teaching various places. And if you want to sign up for some private lessons, you can do that too. Anyway, let's say hello to my guest. He's a young man who is killing the game right now. Does mostly promo, but he does a lot of other things. He's been a friend of mine for a while. Let's say hello to Mr. Donovan Corneetz.
Hey. What's going on?
Wait a minute. I always forget to do this part.
Oh, yeah. Come on. Let me get the round of applause, man. Come on now.
Yeah. How you feeling, man?
Man, I'm wonderful, man. I'm feeling great. Life is good. And I'm talking with Dave Fennoy, man. It gets no better than that.
Come on now. So, Donovan, I always ask this: how did you get interested in voiceover? What was the bug that got in your ear and said, this is what I should be doing?
You know what? First of all, thank you so much for having me on, man. This is an honor to be on your show with you. So back in, we'll go to the beginning. So when my voice changed, right, people would say, oh, you got a deep voice. You should do radio. But I was a science nerd. I wanted to be a chiropractor. And I was a bio major. And I said, you know what, whatever. That's not even real. But then I got to college at North Carolina State University, go Wolfpack, and they had a student-run radio station there. And I said, you know what? I'm here. People have been saying this to me my whole life. I'm going to try it. I'm going to at least go to the radio station, see what can happen. I ended up co-hosting a hip-hop show there. And as part of it, we would do these spoof commercials. Me and my co-host, which was actually his show, I was kind of the co-host, but we would do these spoof commercials for like clubs and clothing and gold teeth and all these things. And it was my first time seeing what it was like to be behind the scenes on production. And that was my first little taste of it, was just doing these really silly, over-the-top, goofy commercials. I also ended up having a professor that did voiceover on the side, and he mentioned it kind of casually during class, and I talked to him afterwards. And I said, hey, what was that? Remind me, what was that you're talking about? And he said, oh, yeah, it's voiceover, commercials, this and that. Do you have a demo? I said, what's a demo? Like, I had no idea what he was talking about. And he said, yeah, no, it's a sample of what you can do, with your voice, like for commercials. I said, okay. He said, well, go ahead and put together a demo. I'll listen to it. That night, I wrote my own script using sales papers from the newspaper. Remember newspapers?
Oh, yeah.
And it literally was 3 complete 60-second commercials that I recorded in my girlfriend's bathroom, my wife now, but her bathroom in her apartment, because I thought the bathroom had cool acoustics. I told you how much I had no idea. This has really happened. But I gave it to him the next time I had class with him, let him listen to it. He said, okay, do you want me to be honest or do you want me to sugarcoat it? I said, well, that already lets me know what you're going to say. He said, yeah, this is probably the worst demo I've ever heard. I said, okay. He said, but it's not because you don't have any talent. You just don't know what the hell you're doing. And so he was the first person, it was Vance Elderkin. I owe him, dearly for sparking that interest. And he basically guided me and said, this is what you need to do this and this and this. And then that's what I did. I started doing voiceover from a dorm bathroom, sitting on a
You
toilet with a
know,
TV dinner table.
I'm kind of surprised he didn't give you more tips, hints about how to do it when he said to do it.
Well, no, it was more like, well, you just don't know what you're doing, but if you're serious about it, get these books, research it, practice, get training, so he gave me it. It wasn't just you suck by. It was,
No. I'm talking about when he first said, "Oh, go do a demo."
Oh yeah. When he first, what's up with that, Vance? No, it was more like, well, let me see what you know. I guess it was like a pop quiz, and I failed miserably. But anyway, that's how I got interested in it, and then I got my first paying gig, and once I got a check for talking, that was it. I said, I don't know when, I don't know how, but gosh darn it, one day I'm going to do this for a living. And
what was that first gig?
Okay, so this was it was a video game for a very big video game developer, and the name of the game was head coach, and I played assistant coach, and I got the gig on a pay to play, and I had 18 pages, single space lines. If you done so many video games,
I've done those
where
games.
it's in like a spreadsheet, right? And it's like each individual line, and I had to do it in a radio station I was working in. I had to do it in their production studio because
they didn't even bring you in to
no.
studio.
It was yeah. I told them I had a home studio, which I didn't. I just had the production studio at the radio cluster I was working in as a producer, and so I did this full thing, this character, and I played assistant coach. So I had the second most important role in the entire game, and I got paid $100 for it.
Oh man. It reminds me of the kind of gigs I had when I first got into. I remember doing promos for TV20 in San Francisco, where it was all the promos I could do in an hour for $25 an hour. But I was happy to do it, and it was great training.
Let me record slow so I can only. But no, it was the funny thing about that $100 is at that time I was so excited that someone paid me. Like I did like a mini photo shoot with this check. I put on sunglasses, I actually like changed, put on a nice shirt, and like took pictures with it. Like what? And I still have a photocopy of that same check as like a reminder of how excited I was to get that $100. Of course, now.
So wait a minute. You got a photo. Oh, you took the photocopy. It's not the check. You cashed that check.
No. I cashed the hell out of that check. Are you kidding me? I ran to the bank with that check. But no, I made a copy of it first because you know how you see stores, they have that first dollar taped to the wall or whatever. That was my first dollar. And so something just told me, make a copy of this. This is incredible. And I just knew, right? What? $100? I'm on my way, baby. Back the armored truck up and just let it dump out all the cash because I have made it. And as you can imagine, I didn't make a damn thing. Like after that, it was crickets for probably 7 months before I booked anything else. But that was my first paying job.
But somebody paid you.
I was done forever.
You knew you could do this.
I knew that my voice could be worth money to somebody somewhere at some point. I just needed to work at it. So yeah.
Well, there you go. Listen, once again, if you're just joining us, Donovan Corneetz, who specializes, he does some of everything, but specializes in TV promo, which is one of the most lucrative things you can do in voiceover. And if you've got some questions for Donovan that I don't have, please put them in the chat, and we will do our very best to get to them. Now, when you started your career, well, when I started my career, I was living in San Francisco, and I knew, because agents and people told me, well, if you're really going to have a career, you got to move to Los Angeles. But you started your career in North Carolina?
Raleigh, Raleigh, the Raleigh-Durham area of North Carolina. That's where I started this. Again, like I was at North Carolina State University, which is in Raleigh, and that's where I started my voiceover journey. Far from New York, LA.
Did you ever feel any pressure to move to a New York, an LA, a Chicago?
I wouldn't say necessarily pressure. I'm a native New Yorker, so part of me would have loved to go back, but I got used to southern winters, and I was spoiled. But no, not really. I wasn't pressured to move, but I did feel the need to be there, right? So to visit for the purpose of networking and meeting people in those places that were going to be the decision makers, the producers and directors and agents and all that. So I knew I wasn't going to break any records or make any kind of true impact just staying local. I
Hmm.
knew I could start there, but at some point I was going to have to kind of branch out. So that became part of my early goal was to uh, not necessarily move there, but I would visit there with the intent of networking with people that could hire me.
Yeah. Well, you started your career, what, about 2005 or so?
Right.
Okay, we had the internet going by
Hmm.
then. I think the iPhone came out that year or the year
A little
after.
bit out. Yeah, it was a little bit. I think it was like '06, maybe.
But we had the internet then, and we had ISDN by that time. So we were
Yeah.
already getting to a place where you didn't have to necessarily be in New York, Chicago, LA to do certain kinds of work, especially uh, promo work.
Right.
But we weren't in a time just yet. We were just getting to the point of that whole networking thing that you're talking about, of people having voiceover conferences that you could go to and network with other people. If you were already in the business, you could go to Promax if you were doing TV promos. I used to do that every year. Um, so, how do you think networking helped your career the way we do it now?
So networking meant everything to my career. It's what took me from, small town guy to doing promos on big networks. It was all about networking. And I'm glad you mentioned Promax because that was the conference that changed everything for me. I knew that I wanted to be in promo. I had gotten a kind of a chance shot that kind of fell into my lap to do promo, which that's a whole other story, very interesting. But I was able to get one credit under my belt, and I said, I want more of this. I got to have more of this. And so I found out about Promax, and it was in New York the first year that I went, and I went from not being able to get a New York or LA agent, at least not like a bigger one that had access to promo. But I got turned down by multiple agencies. And then once I had a shot to kind of showcase myself, meet people, shake hands, business cards, the whole thing, work a room at Promax, I had to choose between LA agents that wanted me because of, after meeting me and kind of seeing what I could do. I made relationships with producers, creative directors directly. And it was just, I wanted people to know that I was much more than an MP3 file and an email address. I wanted you to know you were working with a human, a guy, a husband, a father. And if you were going to hire me, it's because you wanted to work with me and you believed in my talent, right? And as much as I could do to circumvent the audition process, that would be great too. So that's what it meant for me, man. It took me from here and it shot me way up
you
because
know,
I was actually meeting the people.
I want to co-sign on what you said about people. You're not just an MP3 and an email. People are always your best resource. You want to develop relationships with people. They don't have to be your best friend,
Yeah,
but you want them to know that you are a human being too. You have a life, a wife, a family, a point of view, and you are available to help them with what it is they're trying to do. Never ask for a job, always offer your services.
absolutely.
I got a comment here for Linda Baker. How did you discover promo was your strength, and what was your first promo gig?
So I discovered it was a strength when I got that first gig. And I'll try to do a really, really, really quick version of the story. Got an email with no subject one day to my email address. Thought it was spam. Delete. Get rid of it. A couple of days later, I got another uh, email that was in all caps. It said, trying to contact you about TBS promos. Please reply. And I was like, oh, okay, yes, sir. I clicked on it and said, this is so-and-so from TBS. We tried to reach you a couple of days ago, but you never replied. A producer found your website, thought you'd be great for this promo campaign. Please reply if you're interested. So, of course, I couldn't reply fast enough. And I realized that was the email I deleted. She just forgot to put a subject in. Because I went back and found it in the trash. I was like, oh, crap. Yeah, like, oh my God, I almost missed it. And so it ended up being promos for 24 Hours of a Christmas Story on TBS. And that was my first promo campaign saying, exactly that. 24 Hours of a Christmas Story, only on TBS. Very funny, right? So I did that, and I got directed through it, and I've always kind of been really good at learning on the fly, right? I can freestyle and kind of go roll with the punches. And so I was learning in real time how to do promos while doing it. And once I did it, and once I saw what I got paid for it, and how cool it was to hear my voice consistently on TV, because they ran the hell out of those promos, I said, I need more of this, baby. I said, I figured it out. I was good enough to, and I didn't have a promo demo at the time, mind you. She heard my commercial demo and thought I'd be good for this. The producer was looking for someone different, someone that wasn't in the promo thing. And so she found me from like Google and took a shot on me, and I am forever grateful for that. So that was my first promo gig, and that was how I knew I could do it, because I did it.
It's interesting. It parallels some things in my career. I didn't have a promo demo, but my agent sent me out on promo and actually told me, okay, you got a great commercial demo, but where we really think you're going to be strong is promo. And for those of us who came out of radio, it tends to be the thing that is easiest for us to do. Where the sing song doesn't kill us, where it does in commercials and some other things. Right. And now, when you were doing video games, did you feel like you were a good actor then? Have you become a better actor? And what have you done to improve your acting for areas outside of promo?
Right. So as a child, I did a lot of acting things. I was always kind of into the arts, even though, like I said, I was a science nerd, but I did theater as a child. I did community theater, school plays, all that kind of stuff. And I did a lot of live event kind of performing. So I was already comfortable with playing a character, playing a role. But then with the video game, obviously it's a different beast when you're trying to be this character in these little short bursts, right? And to be consistent with line 5 as you are in line 105. That's the other trick. And since then, again, for that one, going with the flow. Like I said, my first ever paying gig, so I had no experience with video games whatsoever. But of course, since then, acting classes, workshops, seminars, books, and also speaking with people at voiceover conferences that, were into video games, and then trying to absorb everything I could from people like yourself who are already well established in that realm, and kind of studying people from afar. And that's kind of what I did to develop my acting, and just becoming a sponge to everything I could find about acting, about voiceover, about the different genres of voiceover. And that's pretty much been my journey. And I'm still on that journey. I'm still learning. I was coaching just this past year for trailers because I wanted to do trailers, and I had not booked a trailer my entire career. Even with being able to do this, right? I wasn't able to book anything. I trained with a coach. 2 weeks later, I booked my first trailer campaign, which led to my second trailer campaign.
Well, you know what? Who was that coach? Let's give him or her a shout out.
Oh my goodness, you're putting me on the spot, and I know his name.
Was it Richard?
Redfield.
Yeah,
okay. Yes, Richard Redfield.
I was going to say, it sounded like it was probably Richard. He's very good, based here in Los Angeles. And before we keep going here, a couple shout outs. Stefan Johnson saying, hey, brothers.
What's going on, man?
He's giving us however they do it.
Yeah.
As if he was Hawaiian.
Yeah.
And Stefan, at some point, I know I'm going to have on here. So listen, I always ask people about their studios, but as we get into that, what was your first mic?
Okay, so technically, my first mic, I still have it. If you give me a second, I should have had this
Uh,
ready, but yeah,
take
you
take
give
your
me one
time.
second. Yeah, this is live TV, people. Hold on.
Yeah, we're going live. Da-da-da-da. And as we break for a commercial, ladies and gentlemen, it's the vocal booth to go, and you can get your VO Life T-shirts, and we'll talk about that in just a bit.
Okay, so I actually have it. My first demo was recorded on this microphone with
Oh
an
my!
on-off switch.
Now, isn't that a dynamic mic?
Yes, it is an Audio Technica Cardioid ATR 20. Look, I mean, it has a regular little headphone cord there. That was
Oh,
my first mic because that's all I could afford.
how much
And
was
I
it?
bought it at Radio Shack. I don't remember. It might have been $30, maybe 20. I'm not sure, somewhere
And
around there.
and does Radio Shack exist anymore? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. No, not anymore.
And
But
I remember starting my career when you had cassettes and you would
okay.
buy them in bulk at Radio Shack. But then you learned that you shouldn't have bought any of them at Radio Shack because they were the cheapest.
Yeah,
Oh,
they were
they
trash.
just fell apart so
But
quickly.
my first real microphone, condenser microphone, when I was told, yeah, we see some potential, but your mic just sounds terrible. Sounds like you're talking into a can. I said, okay, yeah, you got to buy a condenser microphone. And I was a broke college student. So I bought a Behringer B1 and it was $100. And for me at that time, like spending $100 on anything was a huge deal. Like that was like, okay, now you guys know I'm serious. Okay, I spent $100 on this microphone, so obviously I need to be everywhere on every station, on every radio program, every commercial. Obviously, I had no idea what I was talking about, but yes, that was my first condenser microphone. Was the Behringer B1.
Wow, I've had a lot of mics, never that one. Let's see.
You didn't miss
Baron
out
B.
on much.
We were talking about Radio Shack. He says the Radio Shack website exists. Somebody bought the name to turn it into an e-commerce brand. It
That's
was
pretty smart.
it was such a terrible brand though when it was brick and mortar. I'm not sure why I would want to go to it.
I ended up just going there for like little random like pieces you needed for like replacing a cord or
Yes.
something in something electronic. Then you would go to Radio Shack, but I don't think you never really went there like I'm going to go there for this nice quality whatever.
You have done something that I have threatened to do for a long time, which is you turned these shirts, your what you do, into a fashion thing. Uh,
Yes.
and Jimmy Bancole is asking, what's written on your T-shirt, Donovan?
Oh, yes. So this is what you're talking about is VO Life Clothing, which is something that I thought of 10 years ago before it was, yeah, look at that. Love it, Dave. Looks great on you, by the way. It really brings out the dreads.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well, if this voiceover thing doesn't work out, you can go into retail sales.
there we go.
Oh,
But anyway, it was an idea I had for a long time about having voiceover themed clothing, and I just didn't have the resources to make it happen then. But in 2018 is when I launched the brand, and so this shirt says to do audition, book, repeat, which is what the goal always is, right?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so it started off with just that the basic design that you have on the VO Life, the hashtag VO Life. Um, and then it just kind of grew with more and more ideas that I had in my head. And then it became like, all right, I got the website, violifeclothing.com. And yeah, it just kind of grew from there and it became hats and water bottles and the shirts and different paraphernalia and mugs and stuff. So it really was something that I felt like the voiceover industry, we're so proud and so happy to be in this community, right? And for the most part, everybody's so friendly and it's like a really big family. People that are way high up will help people that are just starting out and in between and everywhere. But we never had anything that we could identify. Nothing that really said, here we are, this is what we do, because we spend so much time talking to ourselves in a padded room, which is on one of the shirts. And I said, you know what? I wanted to give us something that we could be proud to have as a brand, as an identity. Hashtag VO Life, and bring bring your pride for what you do out of the booth. And so that was the driving kind of force behind the brand.
Okay. Um, Now we kind of got away from what we talked about your first mics, but what have you got going on now for equipment? What's your booth? What's your microphone? What's your
Oh my
interface?
goodness. So the booth is this behemoth right here. It's a 5x6 double walled vocal booth. As you can see, vocalbooth.com. And
Do I
I
see
love this thing.
a 416 and a TLM 103 in there?
Look at that. That's a very good eye. Yep. Let's see if
That's
I can get it.
exactly my setup.
There it is. There's the 103 and there's the 416. I use the 416 probably 95% of the time. I use the 103 for character work for games. And sometimes I use it for things that are really close in and soft spoken. Um, and anything that I'm going to be moving around a lot, because the 416 is so hypercardioid. If you start to move off axis, it doesn't pick you up anymore. But the TLM 103 has a much wider range. So that's the setup. The 416, the TLM 103. I use Adobe Audition because I'm a creature of habit, and I've been using Adobe Audition on a Windows PC. So take that, all you Mac fan people. I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'm not trying to
we
start a war.
we can
You ran
still
out of
be
time.
friends, even though we're out of time, ladies and gentlemen. We're
Yeah,
gonna
oh, man, look at that. The
no,
connection is messed up.
we can still be friends,
All
even
right,
though
cool.
you're a PC guy.
Yeah. Look,
One day
I'm a
you
PC
may
and I'm an Android
step
guy.
up to a Mac, but in the meantime,
Yeah. I'll continue to make it work for me in my humble abode. But yeah, so I've been using Adobe Audition since it was cool at it. Um, and I used to use it for music stuff when I wanted to be a rapper. That's a whole other story. But I've been using it for so long, and I just have followed it through the iterations because I can work with it in shortcuts, and I know it like the back of my hand. So I use Adobe Audition, and what do I have? A Joe Meek 3Q is my preamp. I don't have like some really
ah,
overly expensive, not overly expensive, but I don't have like a really big expensive preamp. And then I have a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 is my interface. And it's been working like a dream for me.
and if it's working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just upgrade it.
Hey, I got a request here. Can you give us an example of one of your today's show promo reads?
Absolutely not. That's only for money, and there's No, I'm just kidding. Sure. Let's see. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Okay. Watch an exclusive interview with Michelle Obama tomorrow morning, only on Today. So there you have it.
Well, there you go. Without even any copy in front of you.
No, completely from the head. But yes, being the voice of Today's show, if I could just say, has been one of the coolest benchmarks of my career. Like, it really is one of those things where it's still hard to believe, you know. And my kids will say, "Hey, Daddy, is that you?" Like, yeah, that is me, you know. And it's kind of cool to be on such a iconic brand, an iconic show, and that was born out of networking.
So
I did not
tell me
audition
that
for Today's
story.
show.
Tell me the networking story.
So I was at the first That's Voiceover conference with Joan Baker, Rudy Gaskins, their great voiceover conference, and it was in New York, and they have this thing called the Audition Spotlight, right, where they let people kind of compete live in a competition for this prizes, and um, I ended up making it to the finals, and they had to do a runoff between me and someone else. The other person won. They actually won a TLM 103, which would have been awesome. Um, but one of the three judges worked for NBC News back then. And even though I was very early in my career at that point, I knew I needed to meet this person and just make a connection. I didn't think it was gonna like, all right, great to meet you. Let's work tomorrow. But I just wanted to meet these people. And over the course of 10 years, we stayed in touch. If I was in New York, she would bring me up to like 30 Rock. I got a tour of 30 Rock and like where they film Saturday Night Live. And, we kept in touch, and it never became about work. It truly, genuinely was like, this is a buddy of mine. And we would chit chat about family, kids, the whole thing. And then 10 years after that, I get a call from my agent about doing a promo for Today's Show. And it was for Steph Curry was going to be the guest. And it was funny because my first four promos that I did for Today's Show were Steph Curry, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, and a tribute to Whitney Houston. I was like, wait a minute, I'm getting typecast here. Like, what is going on, right? And these are just one-offs. Come on now. But that was in 2018, 2019, somewhere around there, about 10, 11 years after that first conference. Anyway, I got another, and I didn't hear anything for months. And I would do the occasional little thing here or there, summer concert series, one spot here and there. And then in March of last year, I got a call to do a promo about their coronavirus coverage. And little did I know that was my first promo as the voice of the Today Show. And I've been going strong ever since then. And there wasn't even like a, hey, by the way, you're going to be the voice of the Today Show now. It was like, I did that one, and then I did another one, and then I did another one, and that was it.
There's so many hands in that cookie jar making decisions that often,
Oh, yeah.
even when, 2 or 3 or 4 people, that's what they have in mind, they can't tell you that because they haven't told somebody else that yet.
Right.
And there are people in this business who, are up at the top, the suits, that a lot of times the people who are actually doing the work have to manipulate to get the things they want. Well, thankfully they manipulated you right on in there, and you're doing a fantastic job.
Well, thank you.
Hey, this subject just keeps coming up. Radio Shack, Trey Mosley, what the hell?
Trey.
Radio Shack was the spot. Shout out to you, Donovan.
Well, see, he's really into like the building up high performance remote control cars and stuff. So I'm sure Radio Shack was really great for that stuff.
Oh boy.
But I will say really quickly, if I could, about the whole Today Show thing, really important part of the story is about 3 years into this relationship with that producer that we did a studio test. And we were testing because I ended up having ISDN in my home. I had it installed in my home back in 2007, which was crazy expensive, and I couldn't afford it, but I made it happen. Anyway, we did a studio test where they gave me about 6 spots to read, got directed live for it, and I was like, that's it. This is I got the opportunity now. And obviously nothing came from it at that point in time. And then when the whole thing happened in 2019, I asked her about it, and she said, yeah, you were a great guy, knew we were friends. I definitely wanted to work with you, but you were not ready. You weren't ready for this. You weren't ready for Today's Show. Now you're ready. Yeah. You've worked on it, and through social media and me posting things that I've done, she said, I've seen your progress. I've heard your progress. I see the things that you got going on. I've heard your new demos, and I've checked out your website. You were ready now. And it was something where she had said she had, always wanted to work with me, but she didn't want to put me out there and then I get blackballed or blacklisted because I just wasn't ready yet. And as much as I thought I was good, I had to come to the reality that I wasn't yet.
One of the worst things you can do is get out there, somebody give you an opportunity that you're not ready for, because
absolutely
it leaves that bad taste in everybody's mouth, and then they don't want to give you another chance because that's what they remember. So
exactly.
Don't want to go there.
Anyway, I just wanted to let you know, be patient. Don't rush to do this and, I bought a microphone, so now I should be on NBC. No. Even if you have the equipment, you still may not be ready for that big time level gig. But when you are, man, it is awesome.
It is. I got a question here. Theodore Mezzacapo. Question for Donovan. What was the biggest challenge for you learning to do promos, and what are the differences between them and commercials and trailers and games?
Oh my. Well, great question. I think the biggest challenge for promo is that I always tell you, like, if you're doing promo, your family is doing promo because it is a right now pants on fire genre of voiceover, meaning when they need you now. Not only do they need you now, you won't even have a script sometimes until the session starts or 3 minutes before a script or after the session starts. I've had times where sessions at 2 p.m., 2 p.m. I link up. Hey, do you have the script? No, I didn't get a script yet. I've been trying to email you. Oh, okay. What's your email? I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you get the script and they're like, all right, whenever you're ready, go ahead with take one. You're like, well, let me read it first. Like I've never seen this thing before. So the crazy part about promo is that a lot of times you don't have time to prepare. And that's why I always emphasize with people that study with me when I do coaching for promo is like, you have to practice this stuff so much that you can't be thinking about it when the time comes. It has to be muscle memory so that when you do have to make adjustments on the fly, that's what you can focus on, not the mechanics and the technicalities of, what's going on in the script. So that for me was the most difficult part to adjust to, of realizing like, with commercial, usually you have like a week in advance before the session, at least 24, 48 hours. You have the script. You might get a rewrite or a change, but it'll be a line here, a word here, legal kicked it back. We can't say this, fine. But in promo, very rarely do you have like 24 hours with a script. That's a unicorn.
Yeah.
So that's it. And the fact that you could be out at dinner. Hey, NBC needs you in
Right
20
now.
minutes. You're like, so yeah.
Well, wow. When I was doing lots of promos for the networks, it was before ISDN started. And they would have you come in. It could be 11 o'clock, midnight. We need this promo to run first thing in the morning. Get you in here. And even though the rate at the time was about $2.15, it went up to $2.25 at one point, two plus 10 plus tags.
Right.
Even though the rate per promo isn't great, you're doing that 30, that 20, that 15, that 10, those bumpers, tags for,
It's tags.
and it
Yeah.
adds up. And it is some of the best work. One of the saddest things in my career right now is I'm not under contract to anybody doing promos. I still get to do them. I'm just not under contract to anybody. But it's
Right.
and one of the things you develop is that clock in your head.
Oh yes, for
When
sure.
you're doing promos, say comedy promos, and you're coming in between the sound bites,
Yep.
and you realize, oh, I was a little long, and the producer says, oh yeah, you need to shave 0.3 of a second off of that.
Yeah.
I don't know how you learn
Yeah.
how to do it except by doing it, but after a while,
Absolutely.
you feel what 0.3 of a second is.
Absolutely. That's another thing that's really crazy about promo. It is very time sensitive. Like they will tell you, all right, look, here's the script. It's gonna be tight, just letting you know, because we have this sound bite, and we have to play the graphic at the end and stuff. So for this line, you have 8.23 seconds. For this line, you have 2.1 seconds. And really, sometimes you'll get something where it's just one word, and they have the nerve to be like, yeah, this is 0.6 seconds. You're like, really? 0.6? And
Actually, 0.6 seconds is a lot of time for one word.
yeah, exactly. But it's just funny to see it,
Yeah.
in the script, or they tell you, all right here, you got 1.2 seconds to say this. You're like, but it's like 12 words. And I think that's the other part that's can be tricky, and it's not like they're not going to change the spot because you can't handle the speed of it, right? So
Nope.
you have to adjust or you'll get replaced. And so that's what I mean about definitely learning on the fly. And the trick to it is to be able to go that fast without losing the feeling that you're supposed to be putting out there, right? You can't all of a sudden sound like you're talking like this, right? You still have to have the same spirit, mood, tone, all that stuff, while speaking entirely too fast for normal human speech. But anyway, that's definitely another piece of the promo pie. And really quick, he asked about the differences. The differences are just what's expected of you, right? It's the arena that you're playing in. Commercials, you're trying to help sell the experience around a product with promos, right? It's for TV shows and games. And it's just, one is about being, especially nowadays, conversational and real and connecting with someone. Promo is usually a bit more animated, a little bit more energy, unless you're doing something dramatic or, kind of dark. Then it's the opposite of energy. Games, you have to become this character, and when you get characters that have to do what is it, combat sounds and exertion
Battle
sounds.
chatter. Be aware.
Yes.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Oh,
Battle
my goodness,
chatter.
we need you to swing a small weapon 25 times. You're like, okay, now swing a medium weapon. Now get hit with a small weapon. Now get hit with a large weapon. Now die 15 times. And then
to me, interestingly enough, I always feel like that part is the easiest stuff to do. It's really being the character and having the conversation, and getting out of yourself and let yourself being occupied by this other character who is nothing like you.
Yeah.
Who's saying things you would never say, doing things you would never do in a world that you would never live in.
And you're having a conversation with someone that's not there. You're doing one-sided dialogue, and they very rarely will do like line. At least I've not experienced it where they do like line.
I've done over 400 video games, and there have been 3 sessions where there was other people in the session.
Yeah.
It just isn't done a lot because of the nature of post-production in video games.
Right.
And that in video games is the thing you have to overcome. There's not another actor there. You're not in costume. Yep. There's no blocking. You're reading instead of memorizing.
Right.
And so you have to invent everything else that you would have on stage
all
or
in the
on
imagination.
camera, all in the imagination. And so many people just aren't up to the task. And one of the differences, if you're able to go from promo where you're doing a thing like this and you're making sure that every word is heard, and sometimes you've got the word elongation thing going, and then you've got to come to somebody who's just talking to you. And you have to let all that go.
Right.
And
being able to switch gears
and
is
embrace
so
something else.
Important.
Yeah. And it's one of the hardest things to do, especially for people who came out of radio or have their whole career has been promo.
Right.
So I just have to say kudos, because I know what a challenge that is, and I know the kind of talent that takes for you to do what it is you're doing.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, we got to just see some random comments. Rhonda Clark, great session, gentlemen.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Hey, Michael Scott, I'm late, but I love both of you brothers. All right.
Oh, man, Michael.
And, okay, we just got some Roderick, thank you very much. Michael Glover, good advice, thank you. And I'm not sure which advice that was, but whichever
all of
one
it's been good. It's all been good, Dave.
So we got your studio, and now if you were advising somebody who's just getting the business now, what are the kinds of mistakes that you would try to help them avoid?
Okay, biggest mistake that I made starting out, we kind of touched on it, was, thinking that I just needed a microphone and now I'm going to put myself out there with my self-made demo that I had no idea what I was doing, and being so anxious to do it that I didn't take the time to do it right. So that would be the first piece of advice. Take your time. Like, nothing about voiceover is an overnight anything. So trust the process. Trust in your ability to take your time, learn about what you have to do before you try to go out and do it. I doubt anybody would say, you know what? Never flown a plane before. Let's do this, right? No, you would take classes and tests and books and blah, blah, blah. So the same thing applies with voiceover. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is, part of that is just learn about the business side of it. Learn about what it's going to take to not just like get the gig. That's all we usually think about. Like, gotta get the gig. I want to get paid. Okay, but what about invoicing? What about marketing? What about contracts? What about keeping up with clients? What about, all of these things that people don't realize are all part of doing this thing, especially once you get to a higher level. You have to be all things. You're a marketer, you're an accountant, you're all these things until you can, do things and hire other people to do it. So that would be the other really big piece is, don't rush out and buy the $1,000 microphone and the $1,000 booth and all of these things. Like, start where you can start. If you only have a closet, work in the closet. That's fine. If you have to run out to your car to do a gig, pretty good acoustics in there. If you can't afford certain things, do what you can do when you can do it, rather than thinking the great microphone, the $3,000 preamp, and all that stuff is going to make you successful. I promise you, all it will make you is broke.
It
You need to
remind
have the skills first.
uh,
Spend that money on coaching.
that reminds me of my tennis playing, and you're playing with somebody, and you're hitting a ball in the net, you're hitting it long, and what you do is you look at the racket.
Yeah.
It ain't the
Damn
racket.
racket.
It's
You're like
not the
fixing the
racket.
strings.
Yeah, no, it's not that. A lot of people go out and buy another.
User
Well,
error.
this Wilson racket isn't working. I'm going to get a Yonex. I'm going to get a.
Yeah.
It's not the racket. It's you.
No, it's
Uh,
user error.
and as a
And that
matter
can
of
be a hard pill to swallow. That can be a hard pill to swallow. And the last thing is, don't try to be everything for all people. When I started out, I tried to do, I was like, oh, yes, I can do a Latino accent. I can do this accent. I can be this age. I can do that. I can do all things. Give me an audiobook. Give me a commercial. And I was trying to be a jack of all trades. What they say, like a jack of all trades, a master of none. And I realized I was trying so hard to be things that weren't me. And that was a huge mistake. Find out where you are comfortable and then branch out from there. Be versatile on how you're versatile as a human being. You don't speak exactly the same to every person you talk to or in every situation. At least I hope not. You don't speak in a library the same way you do at a sporting event. So that means you are intrinsically versatile. Don't forget that just because you're in a booth with a microphone in front of you. But you don't have to overdo it and be someone you're not. And I think
and
that was my biggest mistake.
that's one of the biggest lessons that you can have. We are so used to, we have our heroes in voiceover. I have mine, you have yours, and you want to be that, do that, and sometimes you're so used to yourself. You're so used to your
Yeah,
voice and your way of speaking that you take it for granted.
absolutely.
I tell my students all the time, you are the secret sauce of your career. Nobody
Absolutely.
sounds like you. Nobody has the particular music you have. So instead of trying to find that music and doing it something, hey, what do you sound like? How would you say
Absolutely.
this? And bring
Absolutely.
that. And bring that.
Right on, man. Yeah, because I same thing. Like when I talk to my students, I'll tell them, people are so worried about how do I stand out? How do I stand out in when so many people are doing this and so many people have microphones and so many people are on this site and that site. I said, you got to use the only thing you have that they don't. None of them are you. Having a great voice and a microphone means nothing. We all have good voices and microphones. That's why we're in this industry. It doesn't mean everybody has to have a deep voice or a textured voice, but all voices are good. Microphones, great. You have a microphone, you have a voice. So do 10,000 other people that are trying to do this. None of them are you. So highlight that. Focus on what makes you you and bring that to that expensive microphone and that booth and that script rather than focusing on I have to sound like this. I need to be the next Dave Fennoy. Like, no, Dave Fennoy is taken. He's got that locked down. Be the first you.
Be the first you. Okay, now you also do some teaching. How can people get in
Correct.
touch with you if they're interested in taking some voiceover lessons with you?
So you can go to the website. It's vocoach.appointlet.com. And that's APPOINTLET, appointlet.com. And you can sign up there, register. And I teach only commercial and promo. That's it. Those are the only things that I will teach because those are the only things I feel qualified to teach.
Hmm.
I always tell people be wary of a coach that thinks they can coach you in every single genre, including ones they're not successful in.
Yeah.
Be leery of that. But yes, so commercial, promo, those are the genres that I will teach.
You know, you bring up a great point, though. There, we are living in a time where voiceover has become very, very, very popular. When I got in the business, there wasn't nearly as many people knocking on the
Right.
voiceover door as there are now, and not nearly as many coaches out there. Now, true enough, we've got so many more genres of voiceover that one can study and involve themselves in. So it makes sense that there are more teachers than there were. But you got to be careful of who you take classes with, who you spend your money with. Not everybody is really on your side. Not everybody is really there to help you achieve your goals. We all get paid. I learned early on that if I offered this for free, people would not take it seriously. I had some
Right.
friends that, oh, you're doing voiceover. I'm an actor. Can you help me? I said, man, come on by Mondays at 6 o'clock. We'll knock it out every Monday. And they came once. They came late the next time.
Yeah.
Didn't call the next time when I called them. Well, yeah, man, that 20-minute drive over to your place.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
People really need to value it for themselves and spend that time and money and take it seriously.
Yeah.
So,
There's nothing like spending your hard-earned money that makes you take something seriously.
yeah,
That's definitely true. So absolutely 100% agree with you on that, Dave. Because I've seen and heard some horror stories from people that have gotten horrible advice from people, and you have to like unlearn
yeah.
terrible habits. So
I have a student now who has one of those voices. He just sounds like this all the time. Hey, how you doing? And early on in his life, somebody told him that, oh, you have this great voice, and he started leaning into it, and oh, you should be doing voiceover. And the people that he came across were all, that's right, elongate those words more. No, let's hear all your enunciation. And he came to me and basically said, look, help me get out of this. And it's one of the
yeah,
toughest things I do. A lot of times I'm working with the guys that came out of radio or have only been doing promos. And
right.
because you have an acting background, you're better at promos because although you've got that voice, you don't have to lean into the enunciation.
Yeah.
You can play the feeling. Let's see. Oh, just because she's there,
Hey,
Lanny Manella. And often agents won't sign you because they already have someone that sounds like you. This is from a conversation we were having here.
that's 100% true. It happens all the
Absolutely.
time.
And when you think about it, if you are that person that has this particular sound and you're killing that work in this particular area, the last thing in the world you want is for your agent to sound somebody that's in competition with you. I
Right.
promise there's some people with your agent that are in competition with you,
For
but
sure.
you don't want them diluting those waters too much. Let's
Right.
see. Tia Beverly, what have you got to say? If they want it and they're hungry enough, they will do what they need to get things done. I don't remember where this comment came from, what we were talking about. It might be from your story about the email that you lost.
Yeah, yeah, it
Uh,
could be.
and there's a little story in that for everybody too. When they want you, they want you. They're
For
not
sure.
just looking. When they're out there looking and auditioning, they're trying to find somebody. When they
Right.
have found that person and it's you, they want you. And I'm not saying that to say start jacking up your prices or thinking you can be a jerk about it.
No,
But realize you have something unique to offer. Let's see.
absolutely.
Oh, okay. Here's one. What's Donovan's web address again?
So for the coaching, it is VO Coach. So VO Coach .appointlet.com.
And
That's for the coaching.
Craig Youngear, how do you find your voice and niche? I've heard a lot, but I still not sure what suits me. Now, what I've got my advice. What would be your advice for helping somebody find their signature voice?
Yeah, that's definitely a good one, and that can be tricky for people because you start to focus, like what you said about, you have your mentors and people you're trying to emulate because that's what you see on TV, you hear in the radio, but it really is about remembering again who you are in your everyday life. How would you, if, for example, if you're doing a commercial and the script calls for you to be helping somebody out with a problem who's frustrated with something and you're there to offer the solution, how would you do that in your real life if there was not a microphone and a script in front of you, right? If you saw somebody concerned about a problem and you're there to offer, hey, I overheard you just talking about that. Hey, look, I know it's none of my business, but I got a great doctor that you should talk to, right? You would just give regular advice. That's your voice. That's your signature sound. Whatever you would naturally do in that situation, that's your signature sound. So, or if you see a party going on and you want to be the life of the party and go in and make sure everybody has a great time and downs their Smirnoff whatever's or their Bud Lights or whatever the commercial's calling for, then you be that life of the party. Even if you are the most like closed in introvert, that's why it's voice acting and not voice talking. Well, what would you be like if you were the life of the party? Hey guys, here I am. Pass me one of those buds, right? Whatever it is, that's going to be your signature sound. I think, at least for me, in my opinion, there's a misconception that there's a signature sound. And I don't think that's true. I think your signature sound is based on the situation you are trying to portray when you are doing your voice acting.
It it
So
I would say it's based on you, your worldview, and the music of your voice and how you approach things.
absolutely.
And we are always ourselves, and we are always in different situations. And so instead of trying to do something outside of yourself, as you said, put yourself in that situation as yourself. The same thing kind of go. Well, you know what? I'm going down the rabbit hole here. Pretty soon we'll be talking the esoterics of too much acting.
What is my
But
motivation here,
yeah, yeah,
Dave?
exactly. But find out from your friends and family who they think you are by how you speak.
Right,
Often our view of ourselves is different than the view the world has of us. We show up
absolutely.
differently than we think we are. It's like the pretty girl who doesn't think she's pretty, but the
Right,
world thinks she's beautiful.
right,
Sometimes we're living in that. Sometimes, well, I'm not sure about myself. That's the voice in our head. When meanwhile, this is the voice that's coming out of our mouths.
right.
Find out how the world responds to you and give them that. Oh, wait a minute. We got a long one here. Rosemary Watson. Hi,
Hello,
David Donovan.
Rosemary.
Talk about publicity and social media. Do you spend on it, or have you been fortunate enough not to have to? So much of the character I see on social media among VO people seems to be among VO people and not, say, business people or industry folk who actually do the buying. You want to take that?
Yeah, can you leave the question up? Just so
Whoa! Sorry, I'll put it up. Every 30
because
seconds it's going to go down, but
oh,
I can put
okay.
it back up.
All right. So as far as publicity and social media, what how I've used social media, and by the way, I can say that I definitely am like the generation that's just on the edge of being comfortable with social media, right? Like I remember like MySpace and Black Planet and all these things coming out before Facebook and before IG. So I kind of got into it early. All that to say, it was for me all about presenting myself as a real person while also highlighting what I'm capable of. So for me, I've always tried to use things that I've done, accomplishments, right? Because very rarely do people post their failures on social media, although I have done that as well. And it oddly gets a really great response when you're being transparent and telling about your mistakes and failures. Um, but no, I've never spent money on like social media. I've never bought followers or paid somebody to write captions for me or anything like that. I've just done it just being me, because that's what I want people to know. I want you to know me. Kind of back to what we talked about earlier. If you work with me, that means you're working with Donovan, not some perception of Donovan that I put out there. And then when you actually work with me, you're like, wait, that's not like you at all. I don't ever want there to be a disconnect. So yeah, I would say for me, it's about putting out content that showcases who you are and sprinkle in things that you've done, accomplishments. You don't want it to be just all the time
A
bragging.
brag
This is what I did.
fest.
This is what I did. Yeah, it's not a brag fest. It's more about highlighting your skill set, but also, oh, this is me with the family, or this is a picture from a vacation I took, or this is this, which you, I think I remember you loved the pic of the waterfall on a recent trip that I put up. Things like that that show, oh, okay, this is not just a brag board. You actually are interacting with people, and if you have something to offer as far as like help, don't be afraid to put free help out there.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt you to just give someone advice or give people general information they can use to help them in their career or in life or relationships or whatever you feel you're an expert in.
Let me pop in here with a little bit
Yeah, yeah.
of
Take
what
over.
you're
I'm
saying,
rambling.
as I am wont to do as well. One of the things you talked about, how do you use social media? You mentioned people on Facebook talking to other people on Facebook who are also in the
Right, right,
voiceover
right.
industry. I think the place for on the internet for looking for new clients is LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
Leave Facebook for Facebook. Yes, you are talking to your peers. You are talking about your family. You're talking about this trip or this or that or the other. But on LinkedIn, that's where you are presenting your professional self. That is where you are trying to develop some professional relationships with people who either want your goods and services or want to offer you their goods and services. So I would want you to have a distinction there, and use social media in a way that's comfortable for you. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to do
Right.
it all.
And I will say this as a really quick addendum: be careful what you put on social media. I see a lot of times with a lot of these voiceover groups and communities and stuff where it's majority of it is very supportive and advice. But if you are always on there complaining, griping about this, or like airing out dirty laundry from some client or from some contract, or why is it always like this? Everybody can see that stuff. Even if it's in some private group, it can be found. And you better believe people are looking at that stuff. Everything about you that you put out there is possible to be seen. So if you have put this persona out there of always griping, complaining, insults, being negative all the time, that's going to show up at some point when you least expect it, even if you don't know it. There may be something you had a perfect voice for, but they're like, this guy looks like a total jerk online. They won't work with you. I
Yeah.
promise you that happens. I've seen it happen. Thankfully, not to me, because I'm kind of careful about what I put out there. But be careful what you put on it on a worldwide public forum.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, listen, this hour flew by. I got you
We got like
overtime,
30 more minutes. What are you talking about?
and I ain't paying for overtime. But listen, Donovan, I am so glad to have had you on. Thank you so much. I enjoyed your interviewing me last week. Glad to have you on this week. So much insight that you have
Thank you.
shared with people. And once again, if they're trying to get in touch with you, what's that website again?
So for coaching, it is vocoach.appointlet.com. My voiceover website is donovanvo.com. And eventually I'll get smart and put a link to my coaching on that website, but that's a whole other discussion. And also volifeclothing.com. And I actually right now have a kind of thing going on for the whole month of July. Use the code SUMMER at checkout, and it's 15% off.
Hey,
anything
I
in the
bought
store.
2 shirts today. I didn't see that.
I
I
posted
want my
about it like
15
3 times.
cents. I want my
Yeah,
15%.
you know what? We'll talk about it offline. But yes, use the code SUMMER for 15% off your order at volifeclothing.com. And Dave, this is just a thrill, man. We've talked offline about how much you've meant to my career and have motivated me very early on, and I always appreciated it, and I still do. And just thank you so much for everything you do for the industry, all the people you've helped and inspired and informed. So thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you for your kind words and for your time here this evening, and the wonderful things that you have shared with this audience.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
So I'm going to let you go, and I got to let this audience go too. Once again, thank you, Donovan Corneetz, and this will live if you're just tuning in. Oh, I missed it. Well, it lives on my YouTube channel, Dave Fennoy Voiceover Training. You can watch all of these. You can also subscribe. If you're interested in voiceover training with me, davefennoy.com, you can click on the Study VO link and book yourself. Want to thank you once again, Donovan. Thank you all who are joining, and go book something.